This is my third time recording this video and my second time recording today, so let's hope this works. Hello there, and welcome back to Idiocracy, but somehow worse. In my video about Invincible, I mentioned that I was a fan of adult animation, despite its general reputation. And since I spent 20 minutes talking about an adult animated show that I actually liked, I guess the universe decided that I needed to balance out the scales, because almost immediately I was made aware of the Netflix animated show, Mulligan, which upon seeing the marketing for struck something of a nerve for me. Why? 2 words. Inside Job. If you've been watching my channel for at least a few months, you'll know that I'm a fan of the show Inside Job. Instead, I'll be sourcing all of my clips from an animated show I do quite like, that being Netflix's Inside Job, which as of recording this was canceled just a couple of weeks ago, far too soon. And who could blame me? Inside Job is a wonderful show, dripping in clever satire and fun world building, with some of the funniest and most endearing characters I've ever seen in an animated sitcom. It's a show that leans into satire a lot, sure, but it also has a lot of heart behind it and is generally very competently made. And more importantly, it stood out from the long line of middling to maddening animated shows that Netflix had been dumping onto their platform for the last several years. If you know of the show, you'll know all of this. You'll also likely know that the show was canceled after just one 20-episode season. Cause yeah, while the show is split into 2 parts on Netflix, those 2 parts are part of the same original season that Netflix ordered. And despite the success of the show critically and among audiences, Netflix decided not to renew it. Meaning that unless another company like Adult Swim comes in and swoops up the distribution rights, please, for the love of God, you did it with Tuca and Birdie, you can do it for Inside Job, please. Then Inside Job is effectively dead in the water. This story, one of a great show being killed by corporate execs before it had its time to shine, is one as old as the entertainment industry itself. But this time it has a little bit of a twist. Not a good twist like insert good twist from a show that has a good twist that I don't want to spoil because it's a good twist. More like the twist in the last Airbender movie, being that the movie was so awful. The twist in our story being that less than a year, not even 4 months after the announcement of Netflix's cancellation of Inside Job, another show was released. One that seemed to be trying to fulfill the hole that Inside Job left, while still being a part of that long line of middling to maddening quality that Netflix had become known for. The name of that show? Mulligan. The subject of today's video. And of my ire. Now you guys know me. I'm not one who tries to make a living off of negativity. I don't really make a living at all off of this channel, but that's besides the point. I post criticism videos occasionally, but mostly I try to make videos that are more interesting or entertaining rather than destructive. I'm not CinemaSins, after all. But this show... oh boy. I will start by giving it a little bit of credit. Despite what the poster and general marketing seem to suggest, this show is not a rip-off of Inside Job. Well, at least not directly. The premise is notably different. Where Inside Job follows the board of a company that secretly controls the world and tries to keep all of the various conspiracies under control, Mulligan follows the reconstruction of the world after an alien invasion, with the action hero who saved everyone put in charge as the US president. It's a premise that is, on the surface, notably different. Kind of. You know what, actually, let's just put a pin in that and come back to it later. The other thing that you'll immediately notice about this premise is that it's not a bad idea. I mean, I feel like it would fit better into a 5-minute SNL skit rather than a 5-hour TV show, but the concept of exploring what happens after aliens mostly destroy the world is really interesting. There is a lot of potential here, especially comedic potential. It's just a shame the show never uses it. Before I get any further, I will admit that I haven't watched the entire show. I was initially going to, but the first episode was enough to put me into a catatonic state. So I limited myself to only watching the first 2 episodes to make sure that the first episode wasn't a fluke and that the show would continue to be this bad. Which, to be fair, it didn't continue to be that bad. It got worse. So I will admit I'm only working with 20% of the show's currently available product, but I already have a lot to say, so forgive me if I'm not willing to bet that there's a significant increase in quality going forward. Okay, so that's pretty much everything we need to know before we really get started. So, let's do that.
Turn off your computer and make sure it powers down. Drop it in a 43-foot hole in the ground.
So the show opens up with a mostly humorless recreation of the typical alien invasion type setup as a precursor to the punchline that is the entire rest of the show. I say mostly humorless because there are a few moments in this sequence where I genuinely can't tell if they're trying to make a joke or not. Like that. It's framed and timed like a joke, but like, what is the joke? Is it the fact that Nebraska is called the Cornhusker State? Because that's real, I looked it up. Is it that aliens are invading the countryside as well as the cities, which is what they normally focus on in movies? Is it just there because the aliens hate cornfields? Who knows? They don't even take the opportunity to make a crop circle joke, which, guys, it's right there. Like, I'd get it if you didn't want to make the joke because it was too cliche, but like, it's still a joke you could make. Anyway, the main guy, the titular Mulligan, in case you were wondering, does the action hero thing and blows up the mothership and is selected as the new United States president. He is asked to give a speech, giving us the setup for the first major joke of the series, something that will set the tone and our expectations going forward, and thus is very important to make a good first impression on the audience.
I totally blew up that ship. Very nice. My wife.
Oh my god, he quoted Borat. I don't think I can do this. So now that we have proof the show is just hurling its best material at us right out the gate, I wanted to take this time to just look at a few examples of the show's comedy. There was an informal study done by The Atlantic in 2014 that averaged out the joke per minute rate of popular sitcoms at the time. 30 Rock had the highest rate at 7.44 jokes per minute. New Girl came in second at 7.11 jokes per minute. Then Parks and Recreation with 6.97, The Office at 6.65, and then I couldn't read the rest of the article because it required me to have a subscription. Den of Geek posted a similar article about Rick and Morty season 3, where they calculated that, on average, the season of Rick and Morty had a joke per minute rate of 9.16. Considering all of that, Mulligan has more in common with Rick and Morty, not only in terms of medium, but just general vibes that it's trying to go for, and the audience, and its genre and stuff. So, to be generous, I'll give it an average rate of 8.5 jokes per minute. Add the fact that I watched 55 minutes of the show, and according to the math, that means that I heard 4.67 jokes while I was watching the show. And out of all of those, I only found one funny.
Is this really going to distract us? I mean, we're running out of medicine and dinosaur chicken nuggets. And no, my boys won't eat regular chicken nuggets.
Have you tried telling them that they're actually dinosaur eggs?
Of course I have, Mr. Vice President. I have 2 PhDs.
And I didn't laugh, mind you. I did one of these.
Try telling them that they're actually dinosaur eggs?
Of course I have, Mr. Vice President. I have 2 PhDs.
Not exactly high praise. Now, of course, comedy is one of the most subjective things in the world, but I think that the problem with the comedy in this show is that, like the Cornhusker State clip at the beginning, half the time I genuinely cannot tell if the show is trying to make a joke or not.
I actually like this. Pulling a vehicle is an honor in my culture.
No one believes you, pal.
I was a general. They named a kind of hat after me.
Is that a joke?
The gang has several hours until curfew. Checking movie listings. The following movies are now playing. No movies.
Ugh, no kidding.
Why else would they mention that if it wasn't a joke?
I would have called first, but there are no phones. In my head, I thought that was a joke.
Really? How so?
I genuinely did not know that wasn't supposed to be funny until the line afterwards clarifying that it was not supposed to be funny. It seemed just like any of the other jokes that the show was trying to make. This show is full of people just saying things that feel like they should be jokes, but not only are they not funny, they don't feel like they follow the setup punchline structure. It feels like they're just saying nonsense to fill time.
I am proud as a pickle. A Christian pickle, that is, by which I mean a cucumber.
What? What does that even mean? That legitimately felt like it was AI generated, and thank God for the writer's strike protesting against that, because if this is the future of comedy, I don't want a part of that.
I knew you were a woman in STEM, but I didn't know you were a woman in comedy.
I don't think it's an exaggeration exactly to say that the moment I heard that line was the moment that I knew in my heart of hearts that I was capable of murder. The thing is that a lot of the attempts at humor in this show aren't very clever. In fact, sometimes they're just downright nonsensical.
This is fascinating. Why do you think so many actors survived?
Cricket wireless, chirp chirp. Cricket wireless, chirp chirp.
Go, chirp, 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 chirp.
They don't even have mascot suits like that in real life. Their mascot isn't even actually a cricket. It's not really a joke because it's not based in reality. You didn't have to include that brand in it. You could have just made another brand and just done the joke and it would have been just as funny. Which is to say, it wasn't, but at the very least it wouldn't be just a topical reference for no reason. That's totally fine, by the way, not being clever. Not all jokes have to be witty to be funny. Like, I can sit all high and mighty and say that the jokes in this show aren't intellectually sound and that I don't find them funny, but at the end of the day, I'll still giggle like an idiot whenever I see this. The problem with the humor is not that it isn't clever. It's the fact that it thinks it's clever and isn't. On a slight tangent, there's this clip of Ricky Gervais, Louis C.K., Jerry Seinfeld, and Chris Rock, my favorite comedians who I love so much and are so cool and great and have done nothing that is of concern, where they're talking about a stupid joke that Louis C.K. saw in a comedy bar. They all laugh at the joke, but Ricky Gervais spends his time in between laughs trying to convince the others that they weren't laughing at the joke, but that they were laughing at it ironically, because there's no way they could find such a stupid joke funny.
Laughing ironically.
It's the funniest thing I ever heard in my life.
Ironically.
No,
That is
no.
Well, I did. I laughed ironically at you setting up this guy struggling and doing it. I laughed ironically.
No, it's true. I love his.
Yes, you do. You're not laughing because that's a clever, funny line. You're laughing at the context.
Why are you so upset? It's just funny.
The comedy in this show kind of reminds me of Ricky Gervais in that moment. The showrunners want to be seen as clever for what they find funny. They so desperately want to be seen as the next Rick and Morty or BoJack Horseman or Inside Job, but they clearly aren't equipped for that. For example, there's this senator character in the show who's basically just Mitch McConnell, who has appointed himself as the new vice president under Mulligan. His whole shtick is that he's trying to remake America into this like perfect GOP sanctuary where the world is this idealized version of the past where he's in control and like white men in control everything, blah, 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 that whole thing. And he wants to use this political power to make that happen.
All in favor? All opposed? 0-0 again. That means the vice president breaks the tie, and I vote aye. Money is now considered a person under the law. Moving on.
It's clearly painted in the show as this like social commentary thing about how some people in politics will just go out of their way to make life worse for people around them when they have the opportunity to do better, as long as they benefit from it, and how politics is a snake that eats its own tail, and how those in power aren't always the ones that we see, you know, making the power, and they blah blah, don't have people's best interest in heart, but like, they don't actually say anything with it. He's not really a funny caricature, he's only slightly exaggerated, and there isn't any actual real commentary on his policies besides it's bad. Which, like, yeah, but it's not really funny or clever to say that. It's social commentary without actual commentary on social elements of our lives. So who knows, maybe they're attempting jokes left and right and I just didn't notice. There's just a lot of missed potential there. Speaking of which, there are a lot of issues with this show. I mean, I just spent the last 10 minutes or so detailing where the comedy doesn't quite succeed. But I do think there's a larger issue here that needs addressing with what I saw of the show. Namely, the jokes squander a lot of the potential they have, and I think that's a damn shame. I already mentioned how the senator character doesn't really have a lot going on with him besides being a reflection of the constant horrors that we watch unfold on a national scale through the action and inaction of conservative politicians, but that description makes it sound a lot more interesting than it actually is. And personally, I just spent the last 2 months of my life watching a show about this topic that dealt with it much more interestingly and with a lot more comedic finesse.
And this other one that came up, just to fend this off, have you ever read Mein Kampf? Yeah, a couple times, I guess. Couple times? Are there Easter eggs in there you didn't get the first time? Look, I'm interested in that period of history, Tom, okay? I've skimmed it. Skimmed, yeah.
My friends have started getting legitimately angry at me because I will not shut up about Succession and they haven't seen it, which, you know, fair. Speaking of being annoying, is it weird that I was almost disappointed at not being annoyed by something? Let me explain. There's this character who's a kid in a general's suit, but the idea is that people aren't supposed to know that he's actually a general, but that's kind of unclear if that's actually the case. I'll get to that later. But when I saw this character in the advertising, I thought he was gonna be like a annoying kid sidekick character type thing, who did annoying kid character things. And then there would be jokes about how he was a kid and how kids are so silly. Isn't this quite humorous? Haha. And then immediately in the first episode, they show him stealing the general suit off of a burned corpse. And then his first interaction with the main cast is this.
Yeah, so as an important army man, do I get to like shoot guns and stuff?
Of course, sir. Thank you for your service.
I'm sorry, how old is he?
Whoa, dude. 1, racist. 2, support the troops. Sorry.
Oh joy, a that's racist joke in 2023. Tune in for more hard-hitting jokes from Mulligan. Next up, we're going to be doing a little ditty that you may not have heard about with an attack helicopter and gender identity. And then they never do anything else with him again. Like, what? You don't even make the obvious joke to compare actual military generals' behavior to that of children. That's like the laziest joke you can make in that situation, and they still don't even make that. Honestly, my suggestion for how you play this bit, have no one notice that the obvious child is a child. It would make a great visual gag, and people could continue to attribute his more obviously childlike tendencies to things like mood swings and being immature. Hell, you could have him enter like a pseudo-romantic relationship with another character and then make jokes there about how people are immature in relationships and, oh my god, I just reinvented Vincent Adultman from BoJack Horseman. Well, I guess that means I'm as good a comedy writer as the people who wrote BoJack Horseman, so really, where's my Emmy? But you see what I mean? They have this like somewhat workable comedic premise, but they don't even do anything with it. This isn't the only time something like this happens in the show either. There's another character who's a huge missed opportunity. Avatrax, the now captured leader of the alien invasion that tried to conquer Earth. I mean, think about it. They've got an alien from another planet locked in a room who they force to do their bidding. They can make so many jokes about the differences in the alien's culture and anatomy and biology and just, I don't know, the fact that he's a goddamn alien. So what do they do with that potential?
My planet is dying. We used up all the natural resources on Cardi B.
Your planet is named...
It's a coincidence.
Oh. Okay. Hey guys, did you get it? Because this planet is called Cardi B, but you know what else is called Cardi B? Cardi, a real person who is a celebrity that the audience knows. And Cardi B is a name for celebrities that the audience knows, not for planets. So you normally, you get it, because it's not what planets are called. Hee, you get it, it's a reference. It's a reference to a popular thing, and when you reference popular things, that makes you funny. Hee, I'm a comedic genius. There are other more subtle examples of missed potential outside of just characters that aren't utilized at all. Something that struck me was how these scientist characters were utilized. One is a geneticist and one is a historian. You could do something interesting with this. Two scientist characters who are used to dealing with the academic world are thrust into a survival situation, and they have to use their various knowledge banks to try and bring the world into a new state. The show even suggests this angle, but in practice? Well, in the first episode, the two go off into the city and just wander through the remains of the world. They get angry at something or other, and then they decide to get drunk.
Guys, I'm not a scientist, but I think that if you drink something that's 99% alcohol, it will almost certainly kill you.
A bunch of random zoo shenanigans occur, and then the scientists decide to use the alcohol to put out a fire, which was the solution to an overarching plot in the episode. Let's just take a moment to put on our thinking caps and wonder to ourselves. What are some potential problems that could occur from this approach? Surely there weren't any, because otherwise the supposedly intelligent scientist characters would notice a flaw with this plan, right? The thing is, I don't even hate this all that much. If they tried to make this joke with basically any other character, or even if they decided to make a commentary on how sometimes really intelligent people don't have common sense, I think it would work. But the fact that the 99% alcohol solution actually puts out the fire suggests to me that the writers actually thought that it would do that. But the point is, these characters aren't really put to good use. Also, the historian turns out to be kind of an incel anyways, so to hell with him. You may have noticed that I've kept my thinking cap on, and that's not just because it's dope as hell, but it's also because I want to show you my final mind-shattering realization. This whole section is about missed potential, but why does that bother me so much with this show? Well, remember when I said this? Despite what the poster and general marketing seem to suggest, this show is not a ripoff of Inside Job. Well, at least not directly. The premise is notably different. Where Inside Job follows the board of a company that secretly controls the world and tries to keep all of the various conspiracies under control, Mulligan follows the reconstruction of the world after an alien invasion, with the action hero who saved everyone put in charge as the US president. It's a premise that is, on the surface, notably different. Kind of. You know what, actually, let's just put a pin in that and come back to it later. Well, it's time to take that pin out, because in a shocking twist, the setup of Mulligan is a ripoff of Inside Job. Both shows have the basic premise of a group of interesting characters controlling the fate of the world. Both shows are attempted satirizations of the political landscape of the modern world. Both shows even have plot lines centered around a census of some kind. In a shocking, shocking twist, the show that seemed at first to be a ripoff of Inside Job was, in fact, a ripoff of Inside Job. None of you saw this coming. I think it's probably time for me to take this off because I think it's starting to affect my brain chemistry. My point is that once you realize that, the lack of utilized potential becomes a lot more annoying. Inside Job actually utilized its own potential to the full effect. Like, for example, there's an episode about why they faked the moon landing footage in the Inside Job universe. Spoiler alert, it's not because they didn't go to the moon. They did. The problem was just that Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong refused to come back. So they had to fake footage of them coming home, thus meaning that they had to fake the moon landings of everything post the Apollo 11 landing. But the Apollo 11 landing was real. It's a bizarre and hilarious twist on the original conspiracy theory that it was basing itself upon. The show also has an episode where it takes the time to make fun of Jeff Bezos and flat earthers at the same time. Meanwhile, Mulligan has the opportunity to make interesting and subversive comedy out of its premise, and just makes beer jokes and has a weirdly contrived love triangle where one of the members is literally just someone off the street. That's not even a joke, that's just the actual plotline. This is only based on the section of the show that I watched, so I could be completely talking out of my ass here. But unless the show did a huge 180 right after the episode where I stopped watching, the issue stays the same. And considering the other reviews that I've seen of this show, I'm guessing that hasn't happened. The best bit, not the funniest, the best, is a cutaway gag to a production of X-Men the Musical.
Paper clips and missing keys, a whole school bus, it's true. But the only thing I can't attract is you.
Which is great because it allowed me to think about something other than this godforsaken show for 15 seconds. What does it say about your show when the short cutaway gags about mutant musicals that are meant to be terrible is more interesting than the actual show about the alien invasion? Not good things, that's for sure.
The struggles that I fought with the power that I got, these electromagnetic charms.
So to bring this all to a head, Mulligan is a show that, while starting production before Inside Job was released, intentionally or not borrows a lot of its premise and DNA, while producing an inferior product. It does have a genuinely kind of interesting premise, but it does nothing with it and doesn't reward the viewer for thinking too hard about that premise. It tries to have interesting social commentary, but fails at making it funny or compelling. It just generally isn't funny, and the marketing preceding its release made it seem as though it was meant to be a replacement for a beloved and recently canceled show. It already was not in a good position, but its proximity to Inside Job makes it worse because it invites comparison to a much better property, when really it would benefit much more from comparison with Netflix's other products like Big Mouth or Farzar or Hoops. That way it looks at least semi-decent. Mulligan is also just a symptom of Netflix's churn business model. Netflix is in a lot of hot water right now because of its cost-cutting measures, which have become so bad and harmful that it kickstarted a goddamn writer's strike over it, and has consistently made it one of the worst performing streaming services in recent years. And that's saying something considering the shit going on with HBO Max, just Max. I forgot. Anyway, Netflix feels the need to cut costs so much because it spends so much money churning out these originals every week that no one watches, that aren't advertised well, and even when they are and people find them good and enjoy them, they still don't watch them for the most part because they don't want to get attached to a show that could be canceled after one season. It's a vicious cycle that could probably be resolved if they went with a weekly release schedule like Disney Plus or Apple TV Plus or Max. Otherwise, we'll constantly get shows like Mulligan or The Imperfects, overproduced and underwritten shows meant to be disposable. And for a platform that revolutionized the entertainment industry for better or for worse, that would sure be a sad way to go. Thank you so much for watching this video. It started out as a small little thing that I was just going to like push out, but then I realized I had more and more that I wanted to say, so it just kind of ballooned. But hopefully the end product was cool. I'd like to thank my patrons who should be appearing on screen right about now. There's not a lot of them right now, but every little bit helps support me and my work. And if you're interested, you can get a bunch of perks, including but not limited to being on this list that you're seeing right now at the end of all my videos, but also getting early access to said videos, plus many more. If you're not interested in that but still want to support the channel, feel free to like the video, comment any thoughts you may or may not have had, share it with anyone you think might like it, or just subscribe for more of that sweet, sweet content. Be sure to check out all of my socials, including my community Discord server and my Letterboxd, all of which are linked down below. I sincerely hope I made your day just that little bit better, and I guess I'll see you in the next video. Bye! This video was recorded 3 times, and there was a huge Discord argument that happened in the middle of it, so I hope that this is the last time. This is a cursed video.